Well, Adam, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today. I have been looking forward to having you on. This conversation we're going to have about genetics testing is kind of the new and upcoming thing everybody's all interested in, but there's some big hesitation about it too. So we're going to dive into all that. But for right now, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be on with you. And yeah, genetics is a very developing field, and I'm happy to be at the forefront of it with this new test.
Yay. I cannot wait to hear. So, for those of you that are listening or watching, I've known Adam for a long time. And so we've become friends over the years. He's got kids and I've watched them grow and been just super excited about him and what he's done. So I have a lot of really respect and trust for Adam and his what do I want to say, history in this world of alternative space, functional wellness. So we are going to talk about, as mentioned, we're going to talk about genetic testing today and how this can be a dynamic add-on to an already busy practice. I suppose if your practice isn't super busy and you want to add it, you could. But for patients who they've learned about genetic testing, they know that it's out there, and what they typically are going to do is they're going to run towards the 23andMe way. And we'll talk about that. Like, we all know that that's a no way to go because of what they're doing with your data. And so this is actually available for clinicians to be able to help the patients not just have a test that tells that they came from a caveman or whatever, but actually gives some useful information. And so I don't want to give it all away, Adam. I'm going to let you go from here. So first, before we start into the conversation about testing, tell everybody your background, your history, like how you met, what you've done, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, sure. So I was a standard process rep for the last 18 years, and obviously I'm just transitioning into working for this company called Reveal My DNA.
Nice.
Yeah, God, I can't remember when I first met Rhonda, probably at least 10 years ago.
It's been that
Um,
long, yeah.
no, I mean every year I would bring you in for seminars, and our accounts loved having you in. You were one of their favorite speakers. So
Oh, thank
these new ventures give us opportunities to actually work together. So which
I know.
I'm
I'm
very
super
excited about.
me too. I think my road ganging might be starting back up again. So this is
Yes,
a good thing. This is a good thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I was with you on the genetic testing. We had some with standard process in the past, and they weren't super well received. So I was a little
No.
hesitant to go and work for a genetic testing company. And also the whole issue of, oh, where's my data being sold to?
Exactly.
Because that's what a lot of these companies do. If it's a super cheap test, they want you to get in there and get your genetic information, and then on the back end, that's where they make their money. It's not on the
Mm.
testing, it's on the sale of
Selling.
your data
Yeah.
to whatever entity might be willing to purchase that. So
Right.
I wouldn't go to work for a company that would do that. I am 100% alternative, and I believe in the exact same things you guys are thinking of right now. Like, oh, I don't want to hear about a genetic test.
Oh,
It's sold. They're going
yeah.
to use me somehow. They're going to develop things against me, all that type of stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah.
this one, it's a lab called Gene by Gene that we use our test through, and they do not sell any of your information ever.
Woohoo!
Yes, they're
Yes.
in Houston, and I was able to actually tour their facility, and they have just it's an amazing facility in terms of quality control and the technology that they utilize. But again, they do not sell it. They do store your DNA, but you can request, all you have to do is send an email to the company. They will destroy your data from the cloud, and they will destroy your sample. So the reason they store the sample is in case there are other variants and SNPs that they find and can back with research, and they add to the test so that you could then, if you wanted to, have your sample retested. That's the only reason they store it. And they've got these really cool refrigerators that they store. You can just see that they're on little cards, not more than like 3 inches by 2 inches. And there's,
Really?
oh yeah, one of the little arrays is about 1 inch by 3 inches, and it holds, I think, 10,000 samples of genetic material on each of these. They're called microarrays that they use
Wow.
for the test. Yeah, it's really cool. But
Wow.
they actually had to take a wall out of their building to get this refrigerator in to store all the genetic material. So they have spent millions and millions of dollars on their technology and infrastructure to be able to have a 99.9% error free rate. because
Wow.
yeah, and a lot of companies can't claim that because their entire process is robotic. So the robots rarely ever mess up, and if they mess up, it's just like placing something somewhere, it's misaligned a little bit. Like they have sensors that if these plates are misaligned, it'll stop the test. Like it's
Wow.
very, very intense and very quality controlled, and it's really cool to see. And they have room for expansion. It's a high-end genetic testing company. And
So on that, Adam, I got a question. On a high-end company, like what, and you may not know the answer to this, but this is what I'm thinking. Why would this company, what is motivating them to invest at this level millions of dollars into this equipment? They obviously are reselling, remarketing using their testing facility, but what would motivate them to do that? Is it this tracking situation? Is it the poor quality of the tests that are out there, like the 23andMe type tests, or just the random grocery store gene? Like what was their motivation? How did they start?
well, they actually test for, they have contracts with the FBI, they have contracts with ancestry.com, they have contracts with like 13 other municipal police departments. So they do a lot of criminal work. So
Mm,
there's only 2 labs in the entire United States, I believe. I'm pretty certain about this, that uh, test for the FBI. There's one in Baltimore and one in Houston, and the one in Houston is obviously gene by gene. So you have to have a very
high level.
yes, and
Yeah.
that's where that. And then they ventured into the the practitioner around the lifestyle nutrition stuff, and eventually we they do something called pharmacogenetics testing as well. And I think this is something we will be able to represent in the future, which is it's basically testing your patient's drugs that they're on and being able to see how their body
How their
metabolizes
little,
those. Yes.
yeah. And they
Yeah.
do that now, or they're
Yes.
getting into that?
So they do already do that. So they have that capability, and they're doing that with certain, it's
Wow.
more for primary care physicians and things like that. But yeah, for anxiety, for cardiovascular medications, mental health drugs. So
That's so
there's a,
cool. Isn't it
yeah.
amazing? It's just amazing to me what the technology can do. It's just
Yep.
incredible. 15 years ago, we could never have done any of this. 20
No.
years ago, it wasn't even on the radar. They did the gene testing, right? Where we're going to go identify all the genes. And then we found out we have it's about the same as a mouse.
Yep.
So, okay, well, then there we go on that. Like, it's just amazing to me what they can do. So, you use gene by gene. So, now the testing that you use, so you don't capture then any data. How do I know this? Because this is for me, Adam, this is a deal breaker.
Sure.
And it's probably deal breaker, as you said, for you, but it's a deal breaker for me. And I will not do it. I'm nervous. And as a clinician, I'm also nervous because I don't want to recommend the test to my patients because I don't want their genetic information shared or given away either. But I really want to know what's going on with the genes so that I can appropriately recommend the right products, right? So I
Sure.
want to,
Sure.
it's a little bit of a catch 22 for me. So tell me you're how you're addressing that concern.
Well, that's where when you look at all the other competitors, you just need to go to their kind of privacy policies, because they will state like, and I've been to multiple other ones. They're sneaky in how they say it. Gene by gene, though, you can go on their website, you can look at their privacy policy. They will not sell this genetic information. They
Mm,
pride themselves on that. They base their reputation on that, because they don't they they're an American company, and they don't want to sell our data to third party entities.
yeah,
And that's why they have all these other business segments too. They're that's not their main motivation, their main driver. This is a new, this specific practitioner test is a new piece of the business for them, and they're very good at the testing, and they want to make sure that's how we're differentiating ourselves from the majority of these other companies, because a lot of
yeah,
them will have sneaky little phrase saying, we won't share your stuff, but we will take your identity off it, and then we will share it with a third party to,
yeah,
then they can do it. So
yeah, yeah.
they do not do that. And for your privacy too, you're a barcode. So they take your name, they take any data associated with you, and it's just a little barcode that's on the sample test, that's what
Wow.
they store it on. So
So my
anytime
name
it's
isn't really even associated with it.
Nope, nope. So
Wow,
even if
that's
somebody were to
isolating.
like
That's great.
break into their lab and steal all their stuff, they would never know it was you,
Oh, well,
which
that's
that's
good. Okay, so you're definitely convincing me. I'm a little bit more of I'm a little more sold. Okay, so tell me, what am I going to learn about myself if
okay.
I decide to do one of these tests? Tell me about the markers and whatnot that you're using
Sure. So
or
we're
getting.
we're testing for 92 different genes,
Oh, wow.
which 23andMe, I believe, tests something like 40.
Hmm.
So you're getting about double the amount of genes. We're also testing, I think it's like 114 SNPs. So in those
Oh,
genes,
wow.
there's little components.
Yep.
You can be on multiple genes. So there's a ton of data that they gather. It's looking at macronutrient metabolism, toxin sensitivity, so like mycotoxins, ethanol, just they're looking at immune system support, mental health and cognitive performance. There's some concussion genes, so
Oh,
how well you
wow.
recover on concussions,
Yep.
cardiovascular health and athletic performance. So on the athletic performance, I really kind of like this stuff. They tell you whether you should power lift, whether you should do endurance training.
No
Yep,
way.
yep. How susceptible you are for ACL, ankle injuries, shoulder injuries. It can also look at your VO2 max capabilities, cold endurance,
Is
how
that, wait, time out,
caffeine.
time out, time out, time out, time out. Is that all included?
Oh yes, there it's amazing. It's an 85-page report that you'll get for it's literally a roadmap to your patient's entire health. Like it
Shut
talks about
up.
meal timing, when you should eat. It talks about your ghrelin, your adiponectin. So they've done studies showing that if you follow your personalized genetic report, you'll lose weight and your blood markers will improve just by following these plans. And
Wow.
it's yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, DNA and protection and repair, methylation, hormone support. So it's looking at estrogen metabolism, thyroid, prostate, testosterone. Um, what else is it? I mean, it looks so there's some immune stuff for COVID related as well, kind of the factors that
Yeah.
influence
Yeah.
your susceptibility and how some nutrition that you might need, like vitamin A, vitamin C, certain things like that. There's choline genes, so for
Oh
pregnant
my
moms.
God.
Let me see what else. There's two HLA genes that are
Yeah.
specific to celiac and gluten sensitivity in there.
Yeah.
God, there's a million.
Oh, okay. I'm like, okay, well, I'm where, how do I get the test? Like, let's go. I'm ready. I want to know, especially because you're not tracking my data. But tell me a little bit about the so as a clinician, like I get the test back. So now I have all this information about my patient. I'm ordering the test. So I have all this information about my patient. Whoa, 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 what do I do now? Like how do you address the for me, I don't want to go be a genetic. I don't need to be a genetic expert. Don't want to be a
Nope.
genetic. That's why I'm paying you for the test. So how do you get those recommendations back to me?
So that's where our expertise will come in. We will have some tools for you to be able to pick from whatever nutrition you're using. We'll be able to help guide you and help you build protocols that way. But also we're oh shoot, I just had a brain fart. My apologies. But
That's all right. I'll come back to you.
we teach doctors to pick your patient's primary areas of concern, whether that's
Right.
cognitive function, whether that's cardiovascular, and
Right.
just focus on that portion of the test. And obviously there's a lot of SP and MediHerb docs out there, so you're going to know the protocols. Like if lipoprotein A is there, you want to look at inflammation in the arteries, you want to
Correct.
get your essential fats, you want to get
Right.
your cardio plus, all these other things to
Right.
hopefully just improve that cardiovascular system. Um, and that's where we will help you to focus on your patient's need, and then developing timelines, whether you want to go back in 3 or 6 months and picking another area of influence or concern for that patient. Because this test could honestly replace, I mean, not replace, but initially you don't need to do blood work. You possibly don't need to do a hair analysis or saliva, because that's a lot of that's included. Granted, that's not saying those problems are happening.
Right.
It's just telling us that there's the potential for those. And
Right.
obviously you pair that with a system survey, or even if you're a muscle tester, you can go through each system and muscle test your points just based on that
Priority.
system and develop your protocols. So
So
we
the yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying we are going to develop in the future, seminars and webinars to whatever type of modality you use in your practice, whether that's a system survey, muscle testing, just functional testing. That's kind of what we're gonna that's our goal is in terms of a sales force is to have all those tools for all of you practitioners to use to do this successfully, because it's a one-time test. They never have to take it again, and you've got that map for the rest of their
Wow.
lives. And
So what I'm hearing is, and this is a unique concept for me, when you said focus on the thing that's their primary presenting or chief complaint. So let's just say it's fatigue. So you would look at the test and you would see the markers that maybe the genetic markers that may indicate or where this fatigue could be coming from. So I'm just
correct.
saying. So then what I'm hearing you say is that I can say, well, that my patient's really struggling with fatigue. I've got this information. It's a one-time test. So I know all the things now. And I can say, okay, I know this fatigue issue could be coming from A, B, and C based on the results of the test. So I can go in and support that. When the fatigue is better, then the next complaint is heart palpitations. And so then I can go look to see where my support needs to be there. I don't have to fix everything on the test at one time.
Correct. Because if you tried to do that, I mean, there are certain practitioners that like to give 20 or 30 things. I've
I'm
seen
not a
those
fan.
protocols.
Not a fan.
You could do that if you want, but yes, that's where you then can just go and work through systems and
How
support.
cool is that?
Yes,
Like
yes,
you really get the map. You're getting the map, so to speak, but the map isn't changing because the determinant has already been hardwired into the genetic code. In
yes,
other words, I
correct.
shouldn't say the determinant. What I want to say, the outcome, like the way that the genes are expressing. Now, what would you say to someone who said, yeah, well, if genes are turned off, they can turn on? Because we
Correct.
know we can upregulate gene expression. We can also downregulate gene expression. So
Yes.
how do you address that?
Well, again, this is, and a practitioner actually brought to me, there was some other company that said they could show that if your genes were turned on or not. I don't know much about that. I don't know if that's even accurate, because I know that sounds to me like, oh, now we just need to keep testing you over and over to
Yeah,
see where your
right,
genes are.
right,
But yes, that we've been teaching this forever. Epigenetics are
right,
your environment, your thoughts, what you eat, the supplements you take. So yes, you can. This is showing what could potentially happen, not what's going to be happening. And this is just going to show us. Take for instance the APOE gene.
yep,
That's kind of been a hot one recently.
lately,
If you have a certain variant, the APOE4, you're more prone to develop Alzheimer's and dementia in the
right,
future. That's where you could then say, look, we're not treating any disease. Your genes aren't necessarily turned on right now, but we want to support you with essential fats, with turmeric, with things to
right. That'll
your blood sugar
upregulate
regulation.
and
Yes,
improve that
correct.
so you can have a better optimal outcome. It's like if you are raised in a family where all you eat is macaroni and cheese and all the kind of crap, and then to say that, well, diabetes runs in my family.
Correct.
Well, that's because everybody in the family and every generation just keeps eating macaroni and cheese and other crap. So
Yes,
as soon as
yes,
you alter that and you say, okay, we're not doing mac and cheese anymore, we're going to now start eating salads and we're going to start looking at organic grass-fed beef. We're going to get in good healthy fats. We're going to cut out the trans fats. Now, all of a sudden, we've reversed or at least turned left, made a turn away from the probable obvious outcome if all factors were to remain the same. So I think looking at
correct.
the genetic test is much the same. Would you agree?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
we're just making a left turn or a right turn based on what the outcome of the gene is. So I get the report back. Does the report include all the, like, are you making supplement recommendations for me or you're just giving me the
we can do. I mean, we can do both. We're consultants too. We're your sales reps, so we want you to be successful with this. So yes, we can make the recommendations. I mean, or we're going to develop some tools to help guide you to where to select those specific nutrients in the future, I think. But yeah, that's going to be our job, is to help you, whatever company you're using.
So it
We
wouldn't
can.
matter. Like a lot of my listeners are going to be standard process med because that's what I've always used. But there's lots of other companies that I've dipped my toe in as well. So you're going to be able to kind of guide and direct that way as well. So it's not
Correct.
just going to be for just one particular supplement company. That's
Right,
good.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Just multiple different companies will be able to help support eventually, I
Right.
believe.
Right. So looking forward, Adam, do you see any risks with this test? or this technology? Do you see anywhere where the bridge might be out up ahead that we're not seeing?
No, I mean, unless the company decides to one day turn around and sell all the data they've accumulated, that would be the only risk. Because honestly, it's a simple cheek swab, 30 seconds. You do 2 swabs on each cheek and you send it in. It's in a little test file and a reagent, and it preserves your DNA. I mean, I would say the only risk is if somebody thinks that they're developing a disease based on their genetics and they've been supporting that their entire life, then
Yeah.
maybe they would say, yeah, well, I had this tested. I've been supporting this. But again, that's genetics. It's not just diet
Correct.
and life
Correct.
nutrition. It could
Right.
be thoughts, it could be stress. I know that they've done studies showing concentration camp survivors from World War II, their children, it altered their genetics like
Yeah.
two
Crazy.
generations. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not just what you eat and what the supplements you take, but this gives everybody the chance to have that information to then try to offset that.
Right.
Because yeah, obviously there was a craze where the BRCA gene, if you had that, then
Yeah.
you immediately can go get your mastectomies, and
Yeah.
it
That
that's
didn't
crazy
turn
to
out
me.
well for a lot of
No,
women. It didn't work
no.
out well and it was bad information. Yeah.
Yes, and that's not what this. That's where I don't think this risk factor is, because we're just looking at what potentially could happen, and we want to hopefully just support the body's natural processes and allow for optimal health. I think this test will do that.
So I think a good way to look at it for practitioners, especially languaging this to a patient, is really to say, what we're going to do is peek in and take a look at your, if nothing were to change, what could be possible,
Correct.
right? If nothing were to change in your life, if we didn't do anything different, this might be the outcome. Doesn't mean it will be, it just could be. There's a
Correct.
risk that you
Yep.
could have a rotator cuff tear, or there's a risk that you could have XYZ thing. But
Yep.
that doesn't mean that it has to be. So the thing that's bothered, let's go figure out where the potential warning light is, and let's go do something to see if we can make a left turn or a right turn and redirect around that and
Yes.
make that a less probable outcome. I
Yes.
think
Be
it's
proactive.
yeah, and I think it's important to note that this is not should not be used as a sole diagnostic indicator.
No, absolutely not. I
Yeah.
think after you start this program, that's where you do your blood work or your saliva testing if things are still out of whack.
Yeah.
It is absolutely not the end all be all. It should not replace everything, because you still have to do those markers. I love getting my panels run every year, my blood work to show, yeah, I take a million supplements, I eat well, and everything is,
Perfect.
close to perfect. I won't
Yeah.
say perfect. Yeah.
Well, it's never perfect always, but
No,
we're always a work in progress. And you throw in the environmental toxicity and the toxins in our food, whether we like it or not. Now they're talking about putting mRNA in the foods and they're printing meat
no,
that you can't tell the difference. Like we could go down that rabbit hole and it makes everyone just have like circly eyes and go crazy. And you kind of just can't think about it. But all we can do is what we can do, what we know to
correct.
do to live the best, most healthiest lifestyle. That's what we need to help the patients with. But I think this test is going to be such a great guide. I'm actually really excited. I'm going to order one for myself.
Cool.
Yes, I'm going
Well,
to
I can
see.
get you set up for that.
Oh, thank you, Adam. You're my man for that. That'd be awesome. So I really am super excited. So now for the practitioners listening, well, let me ask you, what's the cost of the test?
Oh, so it's $295, and that is practitioner and patient cost. And
Okay,
we've kind of recommended, if you're going to do an evaluation for the patient, you can upcharge them
correct.
349.
Yeah,
Add your cost in.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but yeah, the in most other companies, we've done a lot of like research on other DNA testing. It starts at 399, some up to 599. So because they are highly efficient with that technology that they use, it's a
The
little
price of
cheaper
the
than
test
everybody
is
else.
less.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And we're getting that kind of information back. I think that price point is like way more than reasonable. And the patients, they love to know. You say to a patient, listen, let's just take a look at your genes. I don't know that any patient's going to say, no, thank you, as long as they know that no one's taking their data.
correct, correct. And
That's the biggest limiter, I think.
it's a one-time test. You
One
never have to
one
do
and
it again.
done. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. See, so it's a win-win. It's a win for the patient. It's a win for the practitioner. we can keep the data safe, and then the practitioner gets tons of information and can help to reinforce, even if like, I think there might be some endocrine disruption here. You probably look at these markers, I would imagine, and go, yep, bingo, there's the confirmation that we know
Yep.
we got a smoking gun over here in the thyroid. So we need to keep on this thyroid and see if we can get this thing turned around. So
Yeah. And
I love this.
yeah, and you can combine it. If there's a thyroid that shows up, there's also a ton of genes that test for liver detoxification and estrogen metabolism. So
Right,
you can get a really good picture. So
right, right.
I did want to mention one other thing that's on here that's I think one of my favorite things that I didn't get to mention. There's a personalized DNA based grocery shopping list based on your genetics.
No.
Yes, yes. It will list the nutrition that you need and the foods that have that nutrition in great quantities. So you can tell your patient, you don't have to give them diet plans anymore. You say, here's your list, go to the
Eat from
grocery
this
store,
list.
eat from that list,
Oh my
and you will
gosh.
optimize your genetics. Yes, and your health.
Done
It's
and
pretty good.
done.
Yep,
Okay. So when we're done with this podcast, you're going to hook the sister up. Yeah.
of course.
Of course. That's how we're going to roll. So how does everybody else get a hold of you? How do we get these tests in the hands of these doctors?
Okay, so you go to revealmydna.life, and then you can, and there's still a little working on the website, so it's not 100% complete, but it's functional.
Yeah.
Just
Good.
click on open an account, and then just enter your information. You'll then get an email from Gene by Gene to set up your practitioner portal.
Okay.
And after that, we will either contact you or you can contact Melissa. She's our director of admin and human resources. To initially, we have to order tests through her. It's still a little clunky. In about 4 to 6 weeks, you can just go on, order your tests, and they'll be sent right to you.
Oh, okay.
So we'll send you so they come in a bag of 5. So it's 5 and however many multiples you want, and then we'll send those directly out. And then you can just register that specific kit to whichever patient. And it's pretty seamless to go through and register the kit. And it's about 8 to 14 days turnaround time to get your results. And then you'll get an email notification with your patients that your results are ready. And you just go in your portal and you can download all the entire test.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good. So as of this recording, we have to go through Melissa, who is the director there of admin, but in the future, so if you're listening to this podcast later, you may be able to just order directly, but set the account up nonetheless. Go to revealmydna.life, L-I-F-E,
Yep.
revealmydna.life, and then set up your account and then get the process started. I'm sure that your team, Melissa's amazing. I've known Melissa for a long time. She's amazing. So she'll take good care of you. You can get your account open, and then let's get these tests ordered for these patients. And I would highly recommend that you mark them up, because as a good business owner, this is part of being a good clinician and a good CEO of your practice. So you do want to, acknowledge the fact that you have time that you're spending looking at it. Your staff is ordering it, whatever's happening. So you want to make sure that you do mark it up. That's just my business tip for the day. So Adam,
Awesome.
Thank you so much
You're
being on the
welcome.
podcast. This is awesome. And I can't wait to get my results back.
Cool. Well, and one other thing I'll mention, if you want a demo of the entire report and just to learn more information, you can reach out to the sales rep. We've already have 20 sales reps on board with us.
Nice.
So yes.
That's
And you
awesome.
can always just call me. I'm happy to go over all this with you.
And the
No,
sales reps are all listed on the website. So you could find
Yep.
the sales rep that's for your particular state or area,
Correct.
and then the rep can help you. But yeah, or they could just reach out to you and say that
It-
they heard about you on the podcast, and I'm sure you'll take good care of them.
Awesome. Yeah. And if there's no rep listed, just feel free to call me or Melissa and we will work with you and get you all set up.
Awesome. Well, Adam, thank you so much. I'm so happy that our paths have continued to cross, even though you're no longer with SP, but you're moving on, doing some other things, which is so, so exciting. And I'm grateful as all get out that you have been able to come on the podcast and share what you're doing with the practitioners. And let's just go get some DNA testing done for our patients.
Yes,
I'm really
ma'am.
excited.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's been fun. This is my first ever podcast, so
Nice.
thank
Well,
you.
welcome to the world of podcasting. It's just having a conversation. That's all we're doing. So thanks,
Love it.
Adam. We'll take care. I'll talk to you
All
soon.
right, have a good day.